Okay, let's take a look at the second example. So it reads that Weston's meticulous minute-by-minute prom night schedule was thwarted by Elizabeth wanting a milkshake at McDonald's before going to the dance. Well, there's two errors in this one, so we're going to pick out the obvious one, and then we'll look at the less obvious one, and we'll prove how diagramming, sometimes you get into diagramming thinking like, what is the purpose of this? Once again, I'm going to prove to you why diagramming is so effective in showing us where there are errors sometimes in a sentence. So when I build this one, I can see that eventually I get to, like, so many words eventually get into the subject, which is schedule. So the schedule was thwarted, and then we have by Elizabeth. So it sounds like it's going to be passive voice. So follow along with me. I'm going to try to build this one close to the top of my white space, and I'm going to need some space below. I don't even like that. I'm going backwards. I'm going to try to build it a little closer up here because I know that I'm going to need some space below. So here's schedule. I'm not sure why I just drew that little line there like that. What is up with that? All right, and I'm going to add in these extra words. So obviously I'm working with my first period. So this is Weston. So it's Weston's schedule. Meticulous. My lines are real wavy today. Meticulous schedule. I'm going to treat minute by minute as all one big word, if you are okay with that. Minute by minute. It's a prom night schedule, so I'm going to say it's kind of silly, but I'm going to call it a night schedule, but it's a prom night schedule. All right, a lot of hoopla just to even get into the verb. Here's my verb, which was thwarted. It's in kind of a passive voice. And then I have this by, because it's in passive voice. So I'm kind of anticipating the word by. So it was thwarted by. And now I'm looking for my noun off of by. But I have a problem because I have both Elizabeth, but I also have wanting. I know wanting's a gerund. It's an ing that doesn't have a helper in front of it. And really what it's doing is it's serving as a noun. It's a whole phrase, wanting a milkshake. And this whole thing is sort of what's thwarting the schedule. It really isn't Elizabeth who thwarts the schedule, but it's the wanting of a milkshake. The wanting a milkshake is what really ruins Weston's schedule. So wanting a milkshake is trying to be the object of this preposition. So in the book, the author will oftentimes, off of a preposition, she'll basically just simply directly step it and make a gerund. And you can do that. I like putting my gerunds up on trees. I think it's just a nice, clean way of drawing it. Except my tree here is really ugly looking. So I'm going to say, ooh, I don't know if it's going to have enough room, but we'll go with it anyway. All right. So I'm going to go like this, and then I'm going to change my color. Here's my gerund, which is going to be wanting. All right. I'm going to come back to Elizabeth. I didn't leave her. I'm going to come back to it. So wanting milkshake. And we'd say it's a milkshake. It's a milkshake at McDonald's. And in those words, a milkshake and milkshake at McDonald's. All right, so I wanted to put my gerund in a different color so you could see it. All right, so, and then let's add this in before going to the dance. Another gerund. Do you see this one? Going to the dance. It's telling us when. It says before when. And so when I see before going to a dance, I know this tells me when she wanted the milkshake. She wanted it before going to the dance. So when I have these two lines, remember this up here is the noun line and this is the verb line. You got to ask yourself, which line do I use to actually draw off of that gerund? All right, so once again, this is the noun part, this is the verb part. Well, going tells me where. And because it tells me where, which is an adverb question, it should connect back to the verb. So therefore, I'm going to build it off that verb part. So I'm going to come down here. I don't know, I shouldn't really come through there like that. Make it clean. All right, let's go here. And now I'm going to say this is before. My color choices are now just starting to blend. And then here, once again, is my gerund, going to the dance. Well, because going is just a gerund by himself, I'm just going to directly step it. So I'm going to say going going where? To dance. The dance. So once again, I don't have a place for Elizabeth. There's no room at the inn for Elizabeth. I can't put her here in front of the word wanting because I already have a noun. Wanting's already part noun. So there's not really a place for Elizabeth to sit here as being a noun in front of that noun. However, there's a place not for Elizabeth, but there's a place, as you see on your worksheet, there's a place for Elizabeth's. To give this gerund its own subject, I can therefore put Elizabeth's, make it possessive, and therefore there's a place for Elizabeth's. And it sounds very formal, but it would be correct. So what I want to do is I want to add in Elizabeth's off this noun part because it's a determiner. So therefore, perfectly going to fit in here is we're going to, well, I don't know if it's going to perfectly fit in here. Elizabeth, you have a large name. Here we go. Elizabeth's. Like that. This is our subject of our gerund. Let's talk about why it has to even be here in the sentence. Think about logically. When we write a gerund in a sentence, the subject of the sentence is sort of controlling the whole sentence. So here's the word subject. And so, here's the word subject. Here's the word schedule. And schedule is sort of like the king of the sentence. I made a little crown. That's what that's supposed to be, is a crown. So schedule controls all the verbs. The schedule was thwarted. Yeah, that makes sense. Next, here's wanting. Even though it's a gerund, it's a verb. Is your schedule wanting a milkshake? No. So therefore, this gerund is dangling unless I give it a subject. And so I gave it a subject, not Elizabeth, because there's no room for Elizabeth, but I gave it the subject of Elizabeth's. So now I've given this a subject to that gerund, and that keeps it from dangling. Perfect. But there's another problem. Another problem, and the diagram shows it to me. Schedule is the subject, and so the schedule was thwarted. Check. The schedule can't want a milkshake, so I put in Elizabeth's possessive. Check. Last gerund. The schedule, and then here's going. The schedule isn't going to the dance. So therefore, I've got to fix this dangling gerund here. Who's going to the dance? So I want you to think, what would be a perfect, let's do purple, what would be a perfect word which could be sitting right here? A possessive word, a possessive 5-letter word, which tells me who's going to the dance, because it's Weston and it's Elizabeth. But why not put a 5-letter possessive word to say who's going to the dance? Can you hear it? I know you can hear it. It's the word there. Their. Before they're going to the dance, not before them going to the dance, because it's like saying Elizabeth wanting. It can't be a noun. It's got to be a determiner. It's got to be a possessive word. Elizabeth's wanting. They're going, not them going. And I, therefore, what I've done is I've actually given a subject to all the dangling gerunds, and my diagram shows me that schedule controls one verb, Elizabeth controls this verb, and there controls this verb. But they have to be determiners down here because these are already nouns. Schedule is the noun for this verb. And that's how we fix a dangling gerund. And that's how we give a subject to a gerund. So now that we know that, let's go back to that front page and add a real simple solution to those first 4 sentences.